Open your mind.
Hey out there, this is Buzz with TheSurvivalBuzz. So I know I've talked on here before about my connection as far as thinking aliens or demons. And although I'm not the first person to ever come up with this idea, I've read many articles, watched many videos and things about it. And a lot of you guys have commented that you feel the same way about a lot of it. I decided recently to dive in, do a little bit of reading about it and see what I could come up with. And I came across some pretty interesting stuff. I figured I'd share with you guys. First off, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of who Aleister Crowley was. But for those of you who do not, I figured I'd read a brief description of him before I get started on this. Aleister Crowley was born October 1875 and lived till December 1st, 1947. He was an English occultist, philosopher, ceremonial magician, a poet, a painter, a novelist, and a mountaineer. He founded the religion of Thelma, identified himself as the prophet entrusted with guiding humanity into the Aeon of Horus in the early 20th century. And I could make a whole video on Horus, but it's basically an ancient Egyptian deity, evil, basically. So I have this interview here. This is off the Vice, and this is actually a very old interview I found. It's from 2012, and it was done with this guy, Brian Butler. He's a LA-based artist known for his surreal occultist films and performances. But first I want to read the opening of basically this article before he did the interview. It gives a little more insight on Aleister Crowley and who he was and what I'm going forth to talk about. When Aleister Crowley was living in New York doing various magical experiments in a place on West 9th Street, he did what's called the Amalantra working. It's theorized this process created a deliberate channel in ephemeral cosmic influence so that extra-dimensional entities could enter our universe. In short, he likely created a portal for what we know as gray aliens to come visit us. Now, eventually, Crowley made contact with an entity known as LAM, I think it's called LAM, L-A-M, and drew its portrait, which actually the cover photo on this video is the portrait that he did, strikingly resembles an alien, or modern-day alien of what we know it is. LAM is the mantra linked to the root chakra, which is associated with survival. This was around 1917, where there are possible ancient accounts of extraterrestrial visitations in other parts of the world. This was one of the first known grays to have popped into Western consciousness, although Crowley didn't explicitly say that. So I'm going to go on to this interview. It was, like I said, this is from Vice in 2012. Take it as you will. But this guy, Brian Butler, he's basically an occult artist. So this is the Vice asking him, first of all, who or what is LAM? This Brian Butler guy says, it's always been a bit mysterious what this was to Crowley or what the creature was at all. You can tell by looking at it that it looks like a gray alien, although it precedes that. So was it a self-portrait of Crowley on the astral plane? Was it an entity that he encountered? Was it a Malantra? Events that explained last time, all of a sudden LAM came up and I got a communication that I was contacted. Years ago when I lived in New York, close to where Crowley was doing those rituals, I did what's called the LAM statement, which is written by Kenneth Grant. He became interested in LAM and wrote a bit of his speculations on what LAM was and his relations to Crowley and how to investigate and contact that entity. It's a pretty simple operation. So they ask, then what happened? He says, I came into contact with an order of alien beings. They say, what did they say or show you? He goes on to say, it was a long-term process that took maybe a year. You're dealing with a non-human intelligence, an elemental or alien, whatever it is. It proceeded like a slideshow. It was in my sleep. They were showing these projections, and it took me a while to figure out that was happening. They were gradually preparing me for this communication. And then I got into contact with these beings. I was given a further basic understanding of Lam's nature and being. I recorded it with drawings, audio, my relation of what it was. So they ask, how would you describe this contact? And he says, it could be like a classic gray experience. How to explain it? It's all really strange. So they ask him, what were you told specifically? And he says, so there were these images. They were all personal, just strange. You read about these things for years, but when you actually experience it, it's completely different. And they say, how so? He says, you can't really imagine what it's going to be like. It's an entirely different order of being than anything you'd normally encounter in your lifetime. It takes a while. Just the impact of your mind, if you're not prepared, can be very unsettling. And the classic gray alien contact or experience is extreme terror. I can relate to that in a way. It's a very cold, mechanical kind of computer-like intelligence. It's what we perceive as artificial because it's not incarnated and it never was. So it doesn't have empathy or doesn't relate to that at all. And the interviewer says, that's something I hadn't thought of, but it makes sense. That has been cycled through and had a chance to learn things, so it would seem detached and disaffected. He goes on to say, yeah, it's eternal, it's ancient, and it's also futuristic. It's from a dimension that's beyond what our perception of time is, too. So not only is it not a warm-blooded creature, it's also transcending the barriers of time and space. There are certain limitations you need to function in the world, such as a body. So it's impossible for a human being to fully comprehend what it could be like just by nature of being alive. If you don't retain those things, such as an ego or sense of logic and reason, then you can't function in society. These entities operate outside of those rules, so it's very difficult to classify them. We can see a small part of them, but the whole thing is too much. It's overwhelming. It helps you to evolve, and it also can be terrifying, the vastness of where they're coming from. Oh, man. Lost my place here. Give me a second. So he says, just like anything, if you're in contact with it, you absorb its osmosis, like with religion. If you're around a higher level of initiation, it's going to impact your aura. Hopefully you'll be raised to their level rather than them being brought down to yours. In some ways that can be scary or disorienting because maybe you're not ready to all at once be presented with it. And it says here, ever since Crowley's a la mantra working, lots of people in the U.S. started reporting visitations or abductions with creatures that look very similar to Lam. So as you can see, I mean, you can look back hundreds, even thousands of years, and if you look in the right places, there's evidence of alien beings and spaceships and things. But the mere fact this was in 1917, before the modern day alien like you and me know of, the gray, is pretty amazing stuff. And I just happened to stumble across this. I'm going to continue to do more reading on it. And I'll probably make some more videos on this stuff. If it's something that interests you guys, let me know in the comment section. But this is just more proof to me that there actually is a sound connection between aliens and demons. And then now everything coming out in the media and the government, all these whistleblowers and things about spaceships and aliens that, but yet for the last over 50 years, they've tried to act like everybody's crazy and dismiss it. Now all of a sudden, it's like they want us to believe it. So I can't help but believe that this is part of the great deception. This is part of what's leading up to us being fooled. But I thought it was pretty interesting. I figured I'd share that with you guys. And like I said, when I get some more information on this type of stuff, if you guys are interested in it, I'll make some more videos. God bless you all, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Later.